There comes a moment in life when the weight of the world presses so hard on your chest you can barely breathe. When someone says something so small, but it cuts you so deep, you're left asking, why does this keep happening to me? Why do these words, these people, these looks still get to me? Somewhere deep inside, you're tired. Not just tired from life, but tired of reacting. Tired of being controlled by things that shouldn't have that kind of power over you. And in this moment, right here, you're not alone. I see you, and I know that pain. I know what it's like to walk into a room and feel the sting of a silent judgment. I know what it's like when someone touches a wound you never got to heal. And I know the war inside your mind, the one that screams, why can't I just let it go? But listen to me. This stops now. Let me tell you something that most people never learn in their lifetime. Getting triggered doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you failed. It means you're human. And more importantly, it means there's a wound inside you that never got the light, never got the voice, never got the space to be healed. You see, we live in a world that tells you to be strong, to keep moving, to bury the pain deep enough so no one sees it. But what they never tell you is that the pain you bury grows roots. And when the right words hit the right nerve, it comes roaring back. That's the trigger. Not because of them, but because you're still carrying something you were never supposed to carry this long. Every trigger is a teacher. Every emotional eruption is a signal, not from the world, but from within. And until you stop running from it, you will always be controlled by it. That's the part that breaks you down. Not what they did, but what you haven't healed. Not who hurt you, but what that moment taught you to believe about yourself. So you find yourself getting triggered again, out of nowhere. A tone in someone's voice reminds you of someone who disrespected you. A comment in a meeting makes you feel small. Someone ignores you and suddenly you're 6 years old again, wondering why you were never enough. That's what triggers do. They don't lie. They show you exactly where you were hurt and never fully recovered. They bring the past into the present, not to punish you, but to wake you up. You're not crazy. You're not weak. You're unfinished. That wound, that fear, that insecurity you've been dragging around for years, it's screaming for your attention. But what most people do is get angry at the messenger. They blame the trigger. They react. They explode. They walk away. They avoid. But the real healing, it's in the pause. The second you feel that emotion rising, that discomfort boiling, that pain pulsing in your chest, you got to stop. You got to listen. That's not a random reaction. That's the cry of a part of you that's been ignored for far too long. You've been trained to survive. You were taught how to fight, how to keep going, how to smile through it all. But no one taught you how to sit with yourself. No one showed you how to love the part of you that flinches when someone raises their voice. No one told you that the reason you're so reactive isn't because you're dramatic. It's because you're protecting something fragile inside. And here's the truth most don't want to hear. You can't protect yourself and heal yourself at the same time. You got to choose. Either you keep reacting to everything because it reminds you of your trauma, or you face that pain like the warrior you were born to be. You stop running. You say, okay, why did that get to me? You stop blaming people for poking wounds you haven't closed. And instead, you start closing them. You start doing the work. You realize that every time you lash out, shut down, or spiral emotionally, it's not because of them. It's because you still believe the lie that you're not worthy, not safe, not enough. Think about it. If someone said the same thing to a healed person, they'd shrug it off. But when you're still carrying pain, that same sentence feels like a knife. That's not weakness. That's an invitation. Triggers are not random. They are perfectly designed mirrors. They reflect the exact parts of yourself that are still in pain, still uncertain, still afraid. And if you spend your whole life blaming everyone who reflects that mirror, you never get to know who you really are without the pain. And listen, I know it hurts. I know it's easier to snap back, to defend yourself, to shut down before someone can get too close. But healing demands that you do the opposite. It demands courage. The kind of courage that says, I'm going to sit in this discomfort until I understand it. The kind of courage that's not loud, not dramatic, but patient and raw and brutally honest. Because the only way to break free from your triggers is to stop letting them drive your life. Triggers lose their power the moment you stop running from them. That person who criticizes you, suddenly their words don't shake you anymore. That silence you used to fear, it becomes your peace. That rejection you thought would destroy you, it becomes redirection. But that only happens when you do the inner work. When you ask yourself the real questions. What wound is this touching? What story am I believing right now? And who told me that story? Because here's what happens. Someone hurt you long ago. Maybe it was your parents. Maybe it was a friend. Maybe it was someone you trusted. And you internalized that pain. You made it mean something about your worth. And now, years later, when someone presses that same button, all that pain floods back. But it's not about them. It's about what's unresolved. So you go back, not to relive it, but to you rewrite the story. You teach that part of you a new truth, that you are not that wound. You are not that version of yourself anymore. The reason so many people stay stuck is because they confuse triggers with identity. They think this is just who I am. I'm just emotional. I'm just reactive. No, you're not just anything. You are not your reactions. You are not your trauma. You are not your worst day. You're a soul that's been through some things, and those things left scars. But scars are not signs of weakness. They're proof that you've survived. And now it's time to stop surviving and start healing. When you say they triggered me, what you're really saying is there's a part of me that still needs love. That's the shift. That's the transformation. It's not about avoiding pain forever. It's about becoming so emotionally aware, so healed, so grounded that the pain no longer controls your voice, your energy, your actions. You don't flinch when life gets loud. You breathe. You respond with wisdom, not wounds. And I want you to understand something deep. Healing doesn't mean you never feel pain again. It means pain no longer dictates your behavior. It means you can sit in discomfort without falling apart. It means you can be rejected and still know your worth. It means someone can lash out and you don't absorb it, you observe it. That's emotional freedom. That's power. Not in how loud you yell, but in how calm you remain when everything around you is trying to break you. That's how you rise above your triggers, not by building walls, but by building wisdom. You stop asking, why did they say that? And start asking, why did that affect me? And when you answer that question honestly, you find the root. And when you find the root, you can heal it. Because anything you understand, you can transform. You cannot transform what you avoid. You cannot escape what you refuse to face. Most of the world is out here reacting. Hurt people, hurting people. Triggers flying like arrows in every direction. But you have a choice. You can be the one who breaks the chain. The one who says, I'm not going to let my past shape my future. The one who takes accountability, not blame, but accountability for their emotional reactions. That's how you reclaim your life. Because the moment you realize that triggers don't control you, they inform you, everything changes. You stop fearing your emotions. You stop fearing confrontation. You stop fearing the past. And you start standing in your truth with grace, with strength, with compassion for the version of you who was just doing the best they could, because that's what this is. You're not broken. You're evolving. You're growing into the version of yourself that no longer lets the world define how you feel. And there will come a time, if you stay on this path, when someone will try to push that same button. They'll use the same words that used to destroy you. They'll ignore you, abandon you, misunderstand you. And instead of falling apart, you'll stand tall. You'll smile. Not because you're fake, not because you're numb, but because you're healed. Because you finally understand that their behavior doesn't define your value. That trigger, it used to break you. Now it reminds you how far you've come. That's power. That's freedom. That's what it means to take your life back. Not just externally, but emotionally, spiritually, internally. Because when you master the space between stimulus and response, you become untouchable. You become unshakable. You become a lighthouse in the storm. And the most beautiful part of all this, you become safe for yourself. You become home. You stop needing everyone to treat you a certain way just so you can feel okay. You create peace on the inside, and the outside no longer dictates your joy. You stop living in defense. You start living in alignment. You walk into rooms and no longer scan for danger. You bring peace with you. And when life tries to trigger you, when it tries to drag you into old patterns, you remember the truth. That trigger is not a threat. It's a signal. It's a sign that you are ready to go deeper, to grow stronger, to love yourself more fiercely than ever before. That is how you stop getting triggered forever. not by avoiding the pain, but by owning it, healing it, and transforming it into wisdom. That's the path. That's the breakthrough. That's your power. You're stuck, not because you're broken, but because you keep feeding the past more than the future. You keep breathing life into memories that no longer serve you. Every time you sit in silence and replay what they said, how they left, what they did, you're choosing to relive a pain that was only meant to teach you once. But you replay it 1,000 times, hoping the outcome will change. It never does. And never will. The more you feed it, the more it owns you. And here's the part nobody wants to admit. Some of us have gotten so used to the pain, we don't know who we'd be without it. The past becomes an identity, a comfort zone. But comfort isn't peace. Familiar doesn't mean free. Just because you've lived there emotionally doesn't mean it's your home. The future is calling you, but you're too busy having conversations with ghosts. People who are no longer here, moments that no longer exist, wounds that are already scarred. And the scary thing, that past you keep feeding will rob your future blind. It steals your energy, your hope, your direction. And you won't even notice until one day, the future is a stranger and the past is your prison. Some people aren't addicted to the past because it was good. They're addicted to the certainty of it. They know how the story ends, even if it ends in heartbreak, rejection, betrayal. They've seen it before, and that predictability gives them a sense of control. That's why they keep going back emotionally and mentally to situations that are long over. You scroll through old messages. You revisit conversations in your mind, prove you talk about what happened more than what could happen next. That's emotional starvation. You're feeding something that cannot grow. A memory can't expand. It can only replay. And your mind, it's like a projector. Whatever reel you put in, it'll play. So if you keep inserting the past into the lens, don't be surprised when your future looks just like it. The same pain, the same patterns, the same regrets, not because that's your destiny, but because that's your focus. You cannot plant seeds for a new future when you keep watering dead ground. The harvest is always based on what you choose to feed. Your focus is your food, and if all your emotional nourishment is coming from yesterday, don't be surprised when tomorrow is empty. When you keep feeding the past, you unknowingly starve the person you're becoming. You deny them sunlight, silence their voice, ignore their potential. You see, every day you wake up is a vote for who you could become. But when you give your energy to who you were, you cancel that vote. You tell your future self, you're not worth the risk. I'd rather stay loyal to what already hurt me. That's the tough truth. But some of us are more committed to our pain than to our growth. We treat our trauma like a badge, like it defines us. But you are not what broke you. You're not what they said. You're not what you lost. You're what you survived. You're what you choose next. And when you finally stop feeding that old version of you, when you stop giving it attention, obsession, energy, you free yourself to evolve. The truth is, the past will always offer you a seat. It'll whisper, remember me? You were safe here. You knew what to expect here. But if you sit there too long, you'll forget what it feels like to dream. You'll forget that you're allowed to start again. You'll forget that tomorrow is yours to shape, not relive. One of the most dangerous things you can do is let your yesterday dictate your self-worth. You went through things, yes. You were lied to, betrayed, maybe even abandoned. But if you're still looking at yourself through the eyes of those who hurt you, then you're still living in their version of your story. You've outgrown that chapter, but you're still quoting it. Still believing the lines. Still thinking if only I was better, they would have stayed. But the truth is, their behavior never determined your value. Their love, or lack of it, was not a measurement of your worth. But the more you feed that old perspective, the more you anchor your identity to someone who never saw you clearly in the first place. That's the trick of the past. It distorts your vision. It convinces you that because something hurt back then, it has the right to live inside your head now. But your mind was not designed to be a museum for pain. It was built to be a workshop for possibility. So take the lesson, honor the growth, but stop letting the echo of old voices define the sound of your future. They had their chance, now it's your turn. You keep waiting for closure like it's some magical key that will finally let you move on. But sometimes closure is just another form of control. You want the person who hurt you to apologize, to explain, to take responsibility. But even if they did, would that really free you? Or have you just convinced yourself that healing is something you need permission for? Real healing begins when you stop needing anything from the past to feel okay in the present. Stop feeding the illusion that one more conversation, one more answer, one more "I'm sorry" will make the pain disappear. It won't. And the longer you keep looking back, hoping for something that never arrives, the more life passes you by. The closure you're looking for is not a moment. It's a decision. It's the day you say, "I'm done letting what didn't happen define what could happen." You walk away not because it's easy, but because staying emotionally entangled is no longer worth the cost. And the cost is steep. Every second spent obsessing over the past is a second stolen from the future you were meant to build. You don't need them to make peace. You just need you. And don't get me wrong. It's not about pretending the past didn't happen. It's not about forgetting the pain or acting like you were never wounded. No, it's about choosing what you carry forward. It's about deciding what gets to come with you into the next chapter. And most of the time, the baggage we hold on to, it's full of stuff that no longer fits. Outdated beliefs, false narratives, fears that were born in moments of weakness. You're dragging all that weight into a season that requires lightness, and then wondering why it feels so hard to move. You want to grow, but you're still feeding the version of you who was hurt, scared, and stuck. You want new love, but you're still holding conversations in your mind with the one who broke you. You want purpose, but you keep replaying the season that stole your passion. You can't build the future while feeding the fragments of a story that's no longer true. You owe it to yourself to travel light, not by denying the past, but by refusing to be defined by it. It shaped you, yes, but it doesn't get to script the rest of your life. Sometimes the reason your life feels stuck isn't because you lack potential. It's because you're feeding a memory more than a vision. You have dreams, goals, ideas for the future, but your heart is still in a place that no longer exists. You're giving energy to people who've moved on, chapters that have closed, stories that already ended. And the truth is, if you keep nurturing the past, the future can't find room to grow. Your mind becomes cluttered. Your emotions stay trapped in cycles. Your soul gets tired. And tired people don't dream. Tired people settle. They accept what is instead of pursuing what could be. They stop reaching, stop hoping, stop moving forward. Not because the future isn't available, but because they're still emotionally invested in what's behind them. And if that's you, let this be the wake-up call. Your future needs you. Your future needs your belief, your energy, your faith, not just on paper, but in action. You've mourned long enough. You've analyzed long enough. Now it's time to redirect that energy. Build something new. Speak life into something ahead. Stop feeding the fire of what's already burned down. Start planting seeds where you actually want to live. The past has this subtle way of making you feel responsible for things you couldn't control. You replay conversations, trying to figure out what you could have said differently. You replay decisions, questioning if you made the wrong one. That's the trap. Regret. And regret is one of the hungriest parts of the past. It devours your peace, your joy, your presence. But regret is rarely based on facts. It's based on what you think you should have known back then. But you didn't. You knew what you knew. You felt what you felt. You made the best choice you could with the awareness you had. That's not failure, that's life. But when you feed regret, you shrink your future. You begin to fear new decisions because the last ones hurt. You second guess yourself. You stay small. But you're not meant to live your life trying to undo the past. You're meant to live forward. You're meant to use the wisdom, not worship the wound. You're meant to say, that chapter taught me something powerful, but it doesn't get to write the rest. Regret has no place in the future. And the only way to starve it is to feed your next step more than your last mistake. If you constantly feed your past, you give it permission to make your future decisions. And most of the time, it won't guide you with hope. It'll guide you with fear. You'll choose relationships that feel familiar, not healthy. You'll take jobs that feel safe, not fulfilling. You'll silence your dreams because something once made you believe they weren't possible. That's how the past manipulates your future. It dresses up in your voice and pretends to protect you when really it's just repeating old patterns. You have to be bold enough to challenge that voice. To say, just because this happened before doesn't mean it will happen again. Just because I was hurt doesn't mean I'm broken. That's how you reclaim the future. You speak louder than your past. You feed yourself new truths, new beliefs, new habits. And over time, the voice of the past gets quieter, not because it disappears, but because it's no longer being fed. It fades, it loses power. And you begin to realize that the future isn't some far-off mystery. It's the result of what you choose to believe about yourself today. Choose wisely, choose forward, choose life. You have to understand your energy is currency, and wherever you spend, it grows. So if you keep emotionally investing in old arguments, old failures, old wounds, then that's what you're going to feel every day. You'll wake up exhausted, not because of what's in front of you, but because of what's still inside of you. You'll feel heavy without knowing why. That's emotional debt. You're paying interest on things that should have been paid off years ago. So ask yourself, who's still getting access to your thoughts? What memory still has you on a leash? What version of yourself are you still trying to fix when the truth is you've already outgrown it? You don't need more time. You need a shift in focus. You need to stop feeding the story of what was and start authoring the story of what will be. You are not stuck. You are standing in front of an open door, staring backward, and the only thing holding you there is a belief that the past deserves more of you than the future. It doesn't. It never did. Walk forward. And if the past tries to whisper your name, let your silence be the response, because you're done feeding ghosts. Let me tell you something straight. If you continue letting other people's opinions define who you are, you will never truly know yourself. You'll spend your whole life reacting to their thoughts, their judgments, their validation, and you'll become a reflection of their expectations, not your own truth. The world is filled with people who think they know what's best for you, but the truth is, most of them barely understand themselves, and yet we hand them the power to shape our identity. It's like walking around with your soul exposed, waiting for someone else to dress it. Why? Because deep down, many of us crave approval more than authenticity. We want to be accepted so badly that we lose the essence of who we were born to be. And when you do that, when you hand over your identity to someone else's opinion, you become a prisoner in your own life. You need to understand that people's opinions are not gospel. They're not facts. They're shaped by their own wounds, insecurities, fears, and upbringing. Someone may call you too much because they were raised to play small. Someone might label you selfish because you finally chose your peace over pleasing them. People don't always see you clearly. They see you through the lens of their own experience. So if you allow their opinions to carve out your identity, you're not being seen. You're being misunderstood and misdefined. And the more you listen to them, the more you abandon yourself. You start shrinking your light to make others comfortable. You question your voice, your choices, your purpose. All because someone who hasn't walked a single step in your shoes had something to say about your path. There comes a point when you have to wake up and ask, who am I without the noise? That's when the healing begins. Because the truth is, you were not born to be someone else's project. You were not sent here to live in fear of criticism or in hunger for approval. You were born to express, to expand, to evolve on your terms. But to do that, you have to cut the invisible strings that tie your self-worth to what others think of you. You have to be willing to disappoint some people in order to be true to yourself. That's not selfish. That's necessary. Every time you silence yourself for the sake of being liked, you lose a piece of your soul. And piece by piece, you become a stranger to yourself. The hardest part is that many of us were raised in environments where love was conditional. You were rewarded for obedience and punished for being different. So you learned early on that approval equals safety and rejection equals danger. That childhood conditioning follows you into adulthood. You find yourself chasing validation the same way a child chases affection. But you're not a child anymore. You don't need permission to be yourself. You don't need a round of applause to feel worthy. You are allowed to stand tall in your truth, even if no one claps. Real growth happens when you no longer need anyone to understand you, because you finally understand yourself. And let me be real with you. People will judge you no matter what. Whether you play it safe or take risks, whether you speak up or stay silent, someone will always have something to say. So why not choose authenticity over approval? Why not live in a way that feels aligned with your soul instead of trying to fit into someone else's mold? The people who are meant for you will find you when you're real, not when you're pretending. And the ones who leave, let them. Their exit is just making space for something better. But you'll never find out what that is if you keep contorting yourself to please everyone around you. Detaching your identity from other people's opinions isn't about becoming cold or indifferent. It's about becoming free. It's about knowing who you are so deeply that outside voices can't shake your foundation. It's about having the courage to say, I hear your opinion, but I choose my own truth. And let's be honest, that takes guts, because going against the crowd feels lonely at first. But over time, it becomes empowering. You begin to realize that the only validation you ever truly needed was your own. The more you listen to yourself, the clearer your path becomes. And the clearer your path, the less noise matters. Think about how much energy you've wasted trying to be liked. Think about how many opportunities you've passed up because you were afraid of being judged. Think about all the times you watered yourself down, held your tongue, or said yes when you wanted to scream no. All because you didn't want to be seen in a negative light. But here's the truth. Not everyone is supposed to like you. Not everyone is capable of seeing your value, and that's okay. Your worth is not up for debate. You are not here to convince, to prove, or to explain yourself endlessly. You're here to live fully, boldly, and honestly. And once you begin to detach your identity from others' opinions, something shifts. You begin to feel lighter. You begin to move differently. You start asking different questions. Not will they like this, but do I like this? Not will they judge me, but will I regret not trying? That shift is the beginning of self-respect. That shift is the return to your power. You stop looking outward for direction and start tuning inward. You trust your own voice more than the noise around you. And when that happens, when your inner world becomes louder than the outer one, there's no limit to who you can become. You'll notice something else too. People respect you more when you're not trying to please them. When you stand in your truth, even if it's unpopular, people sense your strength. They may not agree with you, but they'll recognize that you're rooted. And those who don't, they weren't meant to walk with you anyway. You were never meant to be understood by everyone. Some people will misunderstand you no matter how carefully you speak. Some will dislike you no matter how kind you are. And some will leave no matter how much you give. That's life. But if you keep your identity rooted in their reactions, you will always be lost in their chaos. So today, make the decision to come back home to yourself. Drop the mask. Release the weight. You don't owe anyone a watered down version of you. The world doesn't need more copies, it needs more originals. You don't become free by being liked, you become free by being real. And the more real you become, the more peace you'll find. Not because life gets easier, but because you stop living for everyone else. You start living for truth, for purpose, for authenticity. You start walking with clarity instead of confusion. And you begin to realize that the opinions that used to shatter you no longer have the power to move you. Because when you know who you are, no one else gets to tell you who you're not. Let me tell you something most people never understand. Your emotions are not your enemy. They are your gateway to real power. But here's the problem. Most people live as slaves to how they feel. One bad comment ruins their whole day. One disappointment wrecks their entire confidence. One rejection pulls them into a hole they can't crawl out of. And the truth is, when you allow your emotions to control you like that, you've already given away your power. You're not living, you're reacting. You're not choosing, you're surviving. But the moment you decide to master what's going on inside of you, that's the moment everything changes. Because real strength isn't about having everything together on the outside. It's about staying grounded when everything around you is falling apart. When life hits, and trust me, it will hit hard, emotional mastery is the only thing that will keep you standing. It's not about suppressing how you feel. It's about understanding what you feel, why you feel it, and choosing how to respond in a way that aligns with your higher self, not your momentary frustration. See, emotional mastery doesn't mean you never feel pain. It doesn't mean you never feel anger, sadness, jealousy, or fear. It means you don't let those emotions run your life. It means you don't allow a bad moment to turn into a bad mindset. You don't allow a temporary setback to turn into a permanent identity. Most people are so reactive that their emotions dictate every decision they make. They quit because they feel discouraged. They lash out because they feel misunderstood. They give up on relationships, goals, dreams, all because they never learn how to regulate what's happening inside. And that's dangerous. Because when you can't control your emotions, someone else always will. That means you'll be manipulated by praise, by criticism, by fear, by love, by anything that pokes your emotional wound. That's not freedom. That's emotional slavery. Mastering your emotions is choosing your power back, one breath, one thought, one moment at a time. Let's be real. Some of the most dangerous people are not the loudest or the strongest, but the calmest. The ones who know how to hold themselves when the world tries to break them. That calm, that stillness, that's power. That's a man or woman who refuses to let outside chaos destroy their inner peace. And make no mistake, the world will test you. People will push you. Life will present you with moments where everything in you wants to explode, to react, to run. But emotional mastery teaches you how to pause, how to breathe, how to choose response over reaction. That pause is your weapon. That breath, that's where your authority lives. When you can stay steady in a storm, you become untouchable in a world full of chaos. You become that one person who doesn't lose control when everyone else is panicking. And people notice. You gain respect not because you demand it, but because you earn it with your discipline, with your restraint, with your presence. That is what leadership looks like. You ever wonder why the most successful people in the world prioritize their mindset above everything? It's not because they never feel fear or doubt. It's because they've learned how to feel it and keep moving anyway. That's emotional mastery. It's the ability to be scared and still take the shot, to feel pressure and still show up, to get disappointed and still believe. That doesn't make you fake, that makes you powerful. People think emotions are either supposed to be expressed or suppressed, but there's a third option, processed. Process your emotions. Don't bury them and don't dump them. Learn to sit with your anger long enough to hear what it's trying to teach you. Learn to befriend your sadness without letting it define you. Emotional mastery is emotional intelligence in action. It's walking into the fire of your feelings, learning from it, and walking out refined, not burned. Because emotions are messengers, not masters. You are not meant to obey every feeling that crosses your heart. You are meant to understand it, grow from it, and rise above it when needed. So many people stay stuck because they wait to feel strong before they move. They wait to feel motivated before they act. But real power isn't about waiting. It's about commanding. You command your focus. You command your energy. You command your mind. You wake up in the morning and decide what kind of day you're going to have. Not because life is perfect, but because you are done being a victim to your feelings. You choose to lead your emotions like a captain leads a ship, not get tossed around by every emotional wave. That's what separates people who live with intention from those who live in reaction. You got to stop saying, I feel like it, or I don't feel like it, and start saying, I choose this. Because emotion-based decisions build a roller coaster life. But values-based decisions, they build a solid foundation. And when storms come, and they will, you won't crumble. You'll bend, maybe, but you won't break. Listen, no one is coming to rescue you from your own mind. You have to become the kind of person who can sit with discomfort and not self-destruct. That's what strength is, not pretending everything is okay, but knowing that even when it's not, you are. Emotional mastery is the decision to rise above what tries to drag you down. It's waking up with anxiety and choosing courage anyway. It's getting betrayed and choosing to love again. It's falling and getting back up, not just physically, but emotionally. You have to train your nervous system like a warrior trains for battle. Learn to breathe when you're triggered. Learn to slow down when you want to rush. Learn to stay present when your mind wants to escape. This isn't fluffy self-help talk. This is survival. This is how you stop burning bridges, sabotaging dreams, ruining good moments with bad moods. You become responsible for your internal world, so no one else gets to control it for you. And don't confuse emotional numbness with mastery. That's avoidance, not strength. True emotional power is being able to feel deeply and still stand firm. You can cry and still be powerful. You can get angry and still be in control. You can grieve and still be grounded. Strength is not about locking your feelings away. It's about allowing them without letting them run the show. That's the difference between someone who's healed and someone who's just hardened. When you're healed, emotions flow through you, but they don't drown you. You learn to be the river, not the flood. You learn to let go instead of latching on. You learn to breathe through the fire and trust you'll come out stronger. Because when you start seeing emotions as tools rather than threats, you unlock a version of yourself that's unstoppable. You become someone who doesn't need life to be easy. You just need to be ready. And emotional mastery makes you ready for anything. There's a quiet kind of confidence that comes when you're no longer owned by your triggers. When someone insults you and you don't flinch. When life throws a curveball and you adapt instead of panic. That's when you know you've stepped into your power. And that kind of peace, you can't buy it. You can't fake it. You have to earn it. Day by day, breath by breath, moment by moment. Emotional mastery isn't a switch you flip. It's a skill you build. And like any skill, it comes from repetition, from failure, from learning, from getting back up. It comes from asking yourself better questions. What am I really feeling? What do I really need? Who do I choose to be in this moment? That kind of self-awareness is what builds resilience. It's what makes you unshakable. Not because you don't feel, but because you finally know how to feel without falling apart. You see, emotional mastery isn't just about handling hard moments. It's about reclaiming your life. Because when you're no longer reacting all the time, you finally have the space to create. You can build relationships based on truth instead of fear. You can go after dreams without getting paralyzed by doubt. You can show up for yourself and others without losing your balance. That's the life you deserve. Not a life dictated by the highs and lows of your feelings, but a life led by the clarity of your inner strength. You become trustworthy to yourself. You become a safe space, not just for others, but for your own soul. And that right there is the definition of power. Not loud, not flashy, but steady, focused, unbreakable. Most people spend their entire lives reacting to pain they never took the time to understand. They walk around with broken hearts, wounded souls, and shattered trust, covering it all up with a smile, pretending they're okay. But the truth is, you can't outrun what lives inside of you. You can't hide from the root of your pain by distracting yourself with noise, with work, with relationships, or with fake positivity. You can't numb it with scrolling, with busyness, with pretending you're strong when inside you're barely holding on. Because sooner or later, life will press on that wound. Someone will say something, do something, and suddenly you'll snap, not because of what they did, but because of what you never healed. You're not reacting to them, you're reacting to years of unspoken pain. That's why healing the root is the only real freedom. You have to go back and deal with the original wound. The betrayal, the abandonment, the shame, the rejection. That's where the power is. Not in pretending it didn't happen, not in covering it with toughness, but in looking it in the eye and saying, you will not control me anymore. See, a lot of people confuse strength with suppression. They think being strong means never crying, never talking about what hurt them, never admitting they're in pain. But that's not strength, that's survival. And survival mode will keep you stuck. It will keep you snapping at people who love you. It will keep you walking away from good things because you're afraid they'll hurt you like the last thing did. It will keep you angry, guarded, defensive, because somewhere deep down you decided it's safer to push people away than to risk being hurt again. But when you start to heal the root, everything begins to shift. You stop blaming others for the war going on inside of you. You stop repeating cycles of self-sabotage. You stop settling for relationships and environments that echo the very pain you're trying to escape. Healing is not soft, it's brave. It means going to the places in yourself that scare you. It means facing the truth of what happened and how it shaped you, and then choosing day by day not to let it define you anymore. You ever wonder why you keep attracting the same kind of chaos into your life? Why the same type of people keep showing up, the same heartbreak keeps finding you, the same frustration keeps resurfacing? It's not coincidence. It's unhealed patterns repeating themselves. Until you heal the root, the reaction will always return. The trigger will keep getting pressed. The insecurity will keep rising. The fear will keep whispering in your ear. And the more you try to fix the reaction by changing your job, changing your partner, changing your surroundings without addressing the root, the more exhausted you'll become. Because healing isn't about control. It's about surrender. It's about surrendering to the truth that your reactions aren't the problem. They're the symptom. They're the alarm going off, saying something inside still needs your attention. And that's the work most people avoid. Because it's easier to stay busy than to be still. It's easier to blame others than to take accountability. But the moment you choose to stop running and start listening to your pain, that's when you begin to take your power back. Healing the root means going beneath the surface. It means asking yourself, where did I learn to shrink myself to feel safe? Where did I start believing I wasn't enough? Where did I get the message that love equals pain? You weren't born guarded. You weren't born afraid to trust. You weren't born full of self-doubt. Life taught you that. Experiences conditioned you. And now, as an adult, you have the choice to unlearn it, to peel back the layers and see where your reactions truly come from, because every reaction is a protector. Anger protects pain. Control protects fear. Silence protects shame. But you can't heal what you won't reveal. So when you feel triggered, don't just react. Investigate. Ask yourself what it's connected to. That moment of curiosity instead of condemnation is the first step toward healing. Because when you start seeing your reactions as messengers instead of mistakes, you begin to work with your emotions instead of against them. That's when the shift happens. That's when the chains begin to break. And hear me clearly. It's not your fault you were hurt. It's not your fault they left. It's not your fault that person betrayed you, abandoned you, broke your trust. But it is your responsibility to heal, because no one else is going to do it for you. No one else can reach into your past and fix it. That's your mountain to climb. That's your weight to lift. And yes, it's heavy. Yes, it's unfair. But on the other side of that weight is your freedom. And the other side of that pain is your power. And the truth is, the longer you avoid it, the more it controls you. The longer you ignore it, the more it leaks into your relationships, your dreams, your identity. You weren't created to carry unhealed trauma your whole life. You were created to rise from it, to transcend it. But you have to be willing to go to the root. You have to be willing to stop bandaging the symptom and start addressing the cause. Otherwise, every relationship becomes a battlefield. Every opportunity becomes a risk. And every day becomes survival. Healing is messy. It's not linear. One day you'll feel like you're over it, and the next day a memory will knock the wind out of you. That doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human. Growth isn't always loud. Sometimes it's in the quiet moments, when you choose not to respond the way you used to. Sometimes it's in catching yourself mid-matter and deciding, not this time. It's in setting a boundary where you used to tolerate disrespect. It's in choosing rest where you used to hustle for validation. That's healing. It's not always fireworks. It's slow, intentional transformation. It's becoming aware of the things you used to ignore. It's noticing how your body tenses when you're around certain people. It's recognizing that your anxiety isn't random. It's your nervous system still stuck in survival mode. But the more you return to the root, the more you speak to it with compassion instead of criticism, the more you rewire, the more you rebuild, the more you reclaim who you were before the world tried to tell you who you had to be. And understand this. Healing doesn't mean the memory goes away. It means the memory no longer controls you. It means you can think about what happened without collapsing inside. It means you can look at your past and feel strength instead of shame. That's what healing the root gives you. It gives you ownership over your story. Not as a victim, but as a survivor. As someone who didn't just go through the fire, but came out refined. When you heal the root, you stop repeating the pain. You stop bleeding on people who didn't cut you. You stop holding others responsible for wounds they didn't cause. That's what maturity looks like. That's what growth demands. And no, it's not easy. It's not comfortable, but it's necessary if you want peace. Because peace doesn't come from avoiding pain. It comes from facing it head on and saying, I'm not scared of you anymore. That's when peace moves in. That's when you stop reacting and you start responding. You don't need to fix yourself. You need to find yourself again. Beneath the trauma, beneath the scars, beneath the layers of defense you built just to survive. There's a version of you that was whole, unafraid, bold, and fully alive. Healing the root is about remembering that version and giving them permission to return. It's about realizing you were never broken. You were burdened. And when you begin to lay those burdens down, you become light again. You become soft without being weak, open without being naive, strong without being hard. That's the balance healing brings. You begin to see yourself not through the lens of pain, but through the lens of purpose. You begin to understand that everything you went through didn't destroy you. It developed you. But you can't access that truth until you stop patching up surface wounds and start going deeper. Not to stay there, but to clean the wound from the inside out. That's where lasting change comes from. That's where peace is born. The person who heals the root becomes unstoppable. Because now their reactions don't own them. Their triggers don't trap them. Their emotions don't hijack them. They respond with intention, with clarity, with wisdom. And that kind of presence, it changes everything. It changes how you love, how you lead, how you show up for your life. You stop needing to be right all the time. You stop needing to win arguments. You stop needing to prove your worth because you know who you are. And more importantly, you know why you are. Healing the root grounds you. It gives you access to a power that isn't reactive, it's responsive. It's rooted. And when you're rooted, storms don't shake you. Noise doesn't distract you. People don't define you. That's where your freedom is, not in avoiding pain, but in confronting it, healing it, and rising above it. You weren't born to react your whole life. You were born to lead it. And that starts the moment you decide to heal, not just the reaction, but the root. Your peace is not a luxury, it's your lifeline. It's not something extra you hope to stumble into one day when life gets easier or people finally act right. Peace is the foundation. It's the air your soul breathes. And if you don't guard it like your most prized possession, life will steal it from you piece by piece. The world has no problem taking your attention, your energy, your joy, because it's built on noise and chaos. It profits from your distraction. That's why you've got to own your peace, like it's the only thing standing between you and total burnout. Because truthfully, it is. When you lose your peace, you start making decisions from pressure, not power. You start reacting instead of responding. You start chasing validation instead of resting in your worth. And that's when everything starts to feel heavy. That's when you lose yourself trying to carry what was never yours. But when you own your peace, you move different. You stop engaging in every argument. You stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You start choosing silence over proving your point, because peace isn't passive, it's powerful. And protecting it is how you take your life back. You don't owe everyone access to you. Just because someone wants your time doesn't mean they deserve your presence. Just because someone's calling doesn't mean you have to pick up. Protecting your peace means realizing that you are not a machine built to please everyone, fix everything, or be available 24/7. You are a human being with limits, with a spirit that needs rest, with a mind that needs clarity. And peace is what gives you that clarity. It helps you separate what's urgent from what's important. It helps you recognize when something is not your battle to fight. It helps you walk away from chaos without guilt. Too many people confuse peace with isolation. But peace doesn't mean you cut off the world. It means you stop letting the world dictate your emotions. It means you stop making space for drama in the name of loyalty. It means you can love people from a distance without letting them drain your soul. That's real maturity. That's real power. And until you start prioritizing your peace, you'll keep repeating the same cycles, letting stress, anxiety, and pressure run your life. But the moment you say no more, the shift begins. People will test you. Life will test you. Circumstances will rise just to see if you really mean what you say about protecting your peace. And that's the moment you've got to stay anchored. You've got to be unshakable, not because everything around you is calm, but because you are. Peace isn't the absence of chaos. It's the presence of discipline. The discipline to stay focused when distractions are calling. The discipline to stay quiet when your ego wants to shout. The discipline to say no when people expect yes. And that takes practice. That takes strength. But it's worth it, because every time you choose peace over panic, you reclaim a piece of yourself. You tell the world, I am not for sale. My joy is not up for grabs. My mind is not your playground. You start to live in your own rhythm instead of chasing everyone else's approval. And that's when real freedom kicks in. When you no longer need chaos to feel alive. When you stop mistaking adrenaline for alignment. That's when you realize peace is not boring. Peace is beautiful. Peace is power. Peace is everything they told you to ignore, but deep down, it's all you ever really wanted. There comes a moment in your life where you have to decide what matters most, being liked or being well. You can't serve both. You can't keep sacrificing your well-being just to be accepted. You can't keep saying yes when your heart is screaming no. You can't keep absorbing other people's mess and calling it compassion. At some point, you have to choose you. You have to choose peace over popularity. You have to choose boundaries over burnout. And that decision might make some people uncomfortable. It might cost you a few friendships. But that's the price of alignment. Not everyone is meant to walk with you in peace. Some people only know how to exist in chaos. And when you stop feeding it, they'll call you distant, selfish, cold. Let them. Let them misunderstand you. Let them talk. Because your job is not to convince anyone of your worth. Your job is to live in your worth. And peace is what reminds you of it. Peace is what makes you whole again after years of trying to be everything for everyone. Peace is what holds you when nothing else makes sense. Own it. Defend it. Don't apologize for it. Too many people don't realize they've been trained to ignore their own peace. They've been conditioned to believe that stress is normal, that burnout is just part of being successful, that exhaustion is some kind of badge of honor. But that's a lie. You were never meant to grind your soul into the ground just to feel worthy. You were never meant to pour from an empty cup. You were never meant to say, I'm fine, while your spirit is screaming for rest. Peace is not a weakness. It's not laziness. It's alignment with the life you were actually created to live, a life of clarity, of stillness, of purpose. But you can't find your purpose if your mind is constantly cluttered. You can't hear your calling if you're always surrounded by noise. That's why you have to step away sometimes, not to escape, but to reconnect, to breathe, to remember who you are beneath the expectations. Because peace doesn't just restore you, it reveals you. It shows you the version of yourself that can't survive in chaos. And that version deserves to live, to thrive, to rise without always being in survival mode. Owning your peace means taking accountability for your energy. It means recognizing when you've given too much, stayed too long, or kept quiet for too many years. It means honoring your soul instead of betraying it just to keep things smooth. How many times have you silenced yourself to avoid conflict, only to create a storm inside your own heart? How many times have you carried someone else's weight while your own life fell apart? That's not peace. That's people pleasing, and it will drain you dry. Real peace requires courage. Courage to speak your truth. Courage to walk away when your spirit says this isn't home. Courage to say I deserve better without needing everyone to agree. And when you start moving with that kind of inner authority, everything changes. You stop begging for love. You stop chasing closure. You stop performing for people who can't see your value, because peace shows you what matters. Peace silences the noise long enough for you to finally hear your own voice again. And that voice, it's been waiting for you to stop running. It's been waiting for you to come home to yourself. The most dangerous thing you can do is normalize dysfunction. The moment you start accepting chaos as your constant, you've already started losing pieces of your peace. You stop recognizing the red flags. You stop listening to your intuition. You start calling survival strength when deep down you're just tired. Peace brings back your discernment. It gives you space to think clearly. It gives you the room to pause and ask, is this really serving me? Or am I just used to it? And those questions, those are sacred. They open the door to healing. But you can't ask them if you're constantly rushing, reacting, pleasing, performing. That's why stillness is so important. That's why silence is holy. In silence, truth speaks. In stillness, healing starts. That's where peace plants its roots. And once it takes root, it begins to grow in every area of your life. You start to choose slower mornings, softer conversations, stronger boundaries. You start treating your energy like it's expensive, because it is. And anything that costs your peace is too damn expensive to keep entertaining. When you understand that, your life changes, because you finally realize your peace isn't just important, it's sacred. Let me tell you something. When you fully own your peace, you stop asking for permission to be okay. You stop waiting for the world to calm down before you choose to rest. You stop tying your peace to your circumstances and start anchoring it within. That's the real game changer. Because now, no matter what's happening around you, you stay steady. You stay present. You stay rooted in a deeper kind of knowing that says, no matter what I face, I can return to me. And that's what peace is. It's a return to wholeness, a return to authenticity, a return to God, to breath, to balance. It's the most powerful place you can live from, because it's not based on what you have. It's based on who you are. And when you live from that place, you become unstoppable. Not loud, not aggressive, grounded. That's the kind of strength no storm can shake. That's the kind of presence that shifts atmospheres. And that's what the world needs more of. Not more noise, more peace, more grounded souls who walk into chaos and don't absorb it, because they've learned to carry stillness wherever they go. The day you start protecting your peace like it's your only asset is the day you stop entertaining what threatens it. You stop negotiating with your peace just to feel needed. You stop letting guilt guide your choices, and you start living with intention. Every no becomes an act of self-love. Every boundary becomes a shield against burnout. Every moment of silence becomes a prayer. Peace teaches you that not everything deserves your reaction. Not everyone deserves your explanation. Some things just need to be released. Some people just need to be loved from afar. And some seasons require you to be alone. Not because you're broken, but because solitude is how peace repairs what chaos destroyed. When you grasp that, you don't fear loneliness anymore. You don't run from quiet. You welcome it, you honor it, because in that space you become whole again. And when you're whole, you stop looking for the world to complete you. You stop letting chaos define your identity. You start leading your life, not surviving it. That's the power of peace. Own it, protect it, and never give it away cheaply. At the heart of everything we've discussed lies one undeniable truth. Your peace is not optional. It's not a bonus you receive when life decides to be kind. It's not something you earn by pleasing people or proving your worth. Your peace is a sacred asset, and it must be treated as such. Life will always present distractions, chaos, and people who thrive in noise. But you have the power to choose differently. You have the right to step back, to create boundaries, to say no without guilt. You are not obligated to carry every burden or fix every broken thing around you. Peace is not found in constant activity, but in mindful stillness, intentional choices, and honoring your soul's voice over society's demand. When you learn to protect your peace, you begin to live from a place of clarity. You stop reacting to everything that doesn't deserve your energy. You stop allowing temporary emotions to create permanent damage. You learn to value silence, to retreat not as an escape, but as a reset. You understand that real strength isn't loud. It's grounded, calm, and consistent. And from that space, you become more powerful, more focused, more in tune with what truly matters. You stop looking outside of yourself for approval and start trusting the stillness within you. You realize that not everyone will understand your peace, and that's okay. They don't have to. Because the moment you decide to own your peace, you also give yourself permission to heal, to grow, and to walk away from anything that disrupts your alignment with who you were meant to be. This journey is not always easy. It requires courage to say no when the world expects yes. It takes strength to remain still when your emotions beg for reaction. It takes deep trust to walk in silence when noise feels more familiar. But once you commit to honoring your peace above all else, you begin to see life differently. You stop chasing, you start attracting. You stop forcing, you start flowing. You begin to rise. Not through striving, but through surrender. And that's when you realize the peace you were searching for was never in the world, it was always inside you, waiting for you to claim it. So wherever you are right now, whatever storm you're standing in, remember this: you don't need to wait for the world to calm down. You can be the calm. You can be the center. You can choose peace even in the face of pressure. And once you choose it, fiercely protect it, because it is your gift. It is your anchor. It is your true power. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing growth, for valuing stillness, and for daring to reclaim what's rightfully yours. May your heart remain calm. May your mind stay clear. And may your peace never be up for sale again. God bless you.